everyone, my name is Annie and I'm one of the three recipients of the 2020 Inspiring Women in STEM grants. I want to quickly cover a couple of women in STEM statistics, who I am and what I did with the grant, and as well as how we can continue to increase the number of women in STEM. So first of all, this is from the Australia STEM Workforce Report, and what we found was that in 2016, Australia's population was just over 24 million, and about 11.5 million people were in the workforce. And 2.3 million of those were qualified in STEM. But what we see is that 16% of them are female. So if we have a closer look at gender, about 10% of that actually go on to do a bachelor degree or higher. I'm in that category. But what we see is that only about 12% of those females go on to earn higher than 104%, which is the top income bracket for Australia at the moment. So my likelihood of sitting on a giant pile of gold is very, very slim. So why am I in STEM? I'm in STEM because I'll take any opportunity I get for a free hug from a tree. So let's zoom back out. Who am I then? I'm currently a PhD student at the University of Tasmania. The path to where I am right now is not as straightforward as it could be. I started out at the University of Queensland and I actually did a Bachelor of Arts. So I sort of migrated sideways into the sciences. I started out with archaeology and geography, and because I really enjoy asking about how does processes in nature work, I ended up doing my honors in geography. And after this, I went to the University of Melbourne, where I majored in palynology. Palynology is the study of spore pollen to reconstruct past environments. So the idea here is that if we understand past environments, hopefully, if we understand processes that occurred in past environments, hopefully it helps us to better predict future environments. And then as soon as I submitted my thesis, I had the opportunity to start at Geoscience Australia and as an internship. And so when I went to Geoscience Australia, I did earthquake modeling. I didn't have any of the skills, but I learned everything and I had an amazing time. I had a great time. And so the opportunity to stay back and work at the Australian National University resulted in a number of papers that we did. Following on from this, I had a close family member of mine pass away, and this triggered an identity crisis essentially. And what I call next is the great wandering years. I really wondered what is the meaning of all this? What is the meaning of life? And I spent about 2.5 years traveling between countries and picking up any job that I could get. And one of the things I really enjoyed was being a science teacher in Germany. So I taught science in English and I really enjoyed that. And when I came back to Australia, I didn't really feel like I was moving forward. So I wanted to keep going and I wanted to teach English in Kenya, but I'll come back to that. So what are some things I learned from the Great Wandering Years? I learned that what I think I need versus what I really need are two very different things. And I think a lot of people might connect with that. I did find that chocolate really is fantastic in Switzerland. The prettiest mountains are the ones where I'm actually conscious and not flat on my face from lack of oxygen. But the most powerful thing I learned was that I have the power to do something. While I was traveling, what I witnessed was that lakes were drying. This is me doing freelance photography for a colleague at the University of Santiago, and she published the Laguna de Aquileo research book. And what we saw was that this is within 10 years, a giant massive lake had completely dried out to nothing. As you can see here, there's the mountain range in the background. And I also witnessed glaciers melting at a phenomenal rate, something that we haven't seen, and it's alarming. What I realize is that we have an obligation to fight for a better future for those who can't fight for it themselves. And the opportunity came right at the start of 2020 when I was offered a scholarship at the University of Tasmania to work in conservation. And that's where I picked up my PhD. So my PhD looks at the drivers of biodiversity and endemism in volcanic forests of Eastern Australia. What do all of these words mean? So biodiversity is biodiversity is biological diversity. It means that if you had a group of different species all co-occurring together, that is something that is biodiverse. So if you had your flowering plants, your fungi, your orchids, your ferns, your bryophytes, all living together, that's something that is an environment that is biodiverse. Versus something that is very poor in biodiversity is monoculture, where you only have the one or two species, such as boreal forest versus rainforest. And the term endemism. So I've written an article. It's you can find it in the Deep group. It's called "What is Endemism and Why Should You Care?" Essentially, endemism, a species is considered endemic when it only occurs in a very small area. So my PhD looks at these volcanic forests that occur in Eastern Australia. Volcanic forest is basically a forest that occurs on volcanic lithology. So what we see in these volcanic forests is that they're highly biodiverse and highly endemic. And so the goal here is to identify areas where we haven't conserved them because therefore they're in need of conservation, and to essentially conserve these highly biodiverse and highly endemic species. But I still very much wanted to continue on from my previous work. I really wanted to go back to teaching English in Kenya right before I started my PhD. So when the grant came up, I saw an opportunity here. Why did I want to teach English in Africa? Well, science is a language that tends to be in English. When I was doing programming was in English. So it's not only do female scientists have to learn science, they have to learn the science in English. And what we see is that across the world, the number of females or girl enrollments to their male counterparts is considerably less. And this is most pronounced in sub-Saharan Africa. We see that, primary school and high school girl enrollments are much lower. And that was where I wanted to target that region. I had a friend who had taught in Kenya, so she put me in contact with the school principal. This is Elias, and he's a traditional Maasai. And we bought maths and science textbooks for 57 students in grades 5 to 8. So the goal here is that we wanted to stimulate curiosity in girls. We wanted to, plant hopes and dreams and solutions into them. But the grant doesn't stop there. I also work on something I call the SkyPi project. So the SkyPi project was introduced in 2019 when I couldn't find a group where, as a female, I felt confident in learning Python. So I started the SkyPi project, and its aim is to introduce complete beginners, someone who has no understanding of Python or programming at all, in the hope to increase the number of females into STEM. So you can join anywhere in Australia or in the world, because we are online. We do it live on YouTube. We actively help you out with exercises every Tuesday night. So you can join us with the YouTube link on Meetup. You can contact me through GitHub, or you can email me at skypieproject@gmail.com. But the message I want to take home here is that I didn't start out where I thought that I would. And I want to stress this to young viewers who are, in high school and going into university. What you pick and what you do at university doesn't dictate the rest of your life. You're not going to be limited by this one thing. As long as you stay curious, there's always an unlimited number of pathways that lead you to where you want to be. And I think that we, as I said before, have a very strong, we have the power to care about all of these things. Without people who care, we wouldn't get anywhere. We wouldn't change tomorrow. But it's little changes every single day that everybody makes that they probably don't realize they could do. So as long as we care, we can make a greater change towards a better future. Thank you.